Silence. Redleaf. Oregon sat buried beneath a blanket of evergreen fog that never fully lifted. By the time photographer Mark finished checking into the roadside inn, night had already fallen. Even so, the owner insisted on giving him a peculiar welcome gift. It was an elegant silver spoon with a long handle, accompanied by a laminated card stamped with the official seal of the town council. Only 2 lines of dark red text were printed on it. 16 to 1615, absolute silence is mandatory. If you must cough or sneeze, bite down on the spoon.
What is it supposed to be?
Mark laughed, tossing the card onto the table as the owner helped carry in his bags.
Some kind of local prank?
The owner froze. He slowly raised his head. The age-spotted face was drained of color, set into a rigid, unsettling solemnity. His eyes locked onto Mark's throat, and when he spoke, his voice was slow, careful, as if afraid of waking something nearby.
Son, sound isn't just communication here. It's the form of navigation. It's about not letting them find you.
3:58 p.m. Mark sat on the second-floor balcony of his rental, fine-tuning his Leica. The street below was usually alive, vendors shouting, brakes squealing, children laughing. But the instant the distant clock tower's minute hand reached 12, every sound vanished. Not faded, not muted, gone. The silence was physical, heavy enough to press against his chest. Mark could hear the faint scrape of muscle against bone as his eyes moved in their sockets. Looking down, he saw the townspeople frozen mid-action, a paperboy gripping his stack, pedestrians caught halfway through a step. They weren't motionless. They were holding still, desperately maintaining silence. Mark's heart began to pound. In the dead air, it sounded deafening, like a drumbeat. Panic crept in, irrational and overwhelming, and with it came a purely biological response. His throat began to itch. 4:05 p.m. The air over the street started to warp. Through the viewfinder, Mark saw the townspeople's shadows change. With the sun still high, they should have been sharp and clean. Instead, the black shapes began to boil, their edges sprouting countless thin hooks, like the legs of insects. Then something appeared. It resembled a vast, semi-transparent sheet of black membrane drifting through the air, dozens of meters long, gliding silently above the street. It had no eyes. Instead, its upper surface was studded with enormous, trumpet-shaped auditory organs, all subtly trembling as they sampled vibrations across kilometers of space. The itch in Mark's throat became unbearable. A violent urge surged through him. He needed to cough, now. He reached instinctively for the spoon, and realized he'd left it inside, on the living room table. Across the street, a tourist finally cracked. From his nose came a tiny, involuntary sound, barely audible, a soft HM. The black membrane stopped instantly. Every listening organ snapped toward the tourist. In the next second, the townspeople's shadows, those hooked, writhing silhouettes, rose like a flock of deranged black crows and engulfed him. There was no scream, no crunch of bone. The hooks slid into his mouth, burrowing downward, churning violently inside his chest. In less than 3 seconds, the man collapsed inward like a stuffed doll with its filling ripped out. From the shadows, something was expelled. A man, identical in every way. He stood there, newly formed, wearing a humble, rigid smile. And whatever had once been the original soul seemed to be dragged upward, hooked and packed into the floating membrane above, where it struggled forever, silently. Mark clutched his own throat, fingers digging into flesh. Tears streamed down his face as his vision blurred. He was suffocating. The membrane drifted closer to his balcony. The listening organs probed the air, reaching his face. He could smell it now, a cold, metallic stench, like the inside of countless dead throats. HCK. At the very edge of sound, Mark jammed a wad of cloth into his mouth and bit down hard on his own arm. The pain nearly shattered his nerves, but it bought him silence. 4:15 p.m. The bell rang again. Sound flooded back into the street all at once. Voices, engines, laughter crashing in like a tidal wave. "Good afternoon, Mr. Mark," the innkeeper called from below, his voice loose with the relief of survival. Mark released his arm and gulped air, lungs burning. He made his way downstairs. On the corner, the replaced tourist was cheerfully buying coffee, crouching to play with a neighbor's dog.
He's not himself anymore, is he?
Mark asked hoarsely. The owner turned to him. Terror lay at the bottom of his eyes, bottomless and ancient, but he smiled. There was even a hint of pride.
That doesn't matter anymore, as long as he stays quiet. He's a perfect resident of Redleaf.
Then added gently,
Get some rest tonight, Mark. From 3 to 3:30 a.m. tonight.
That's closed eyes time.